Hello and welcome to the third and the last part of Autobunnyhop tutorial video series for amateurs. Today we're going to be talking about different types of blocks and how to approach them. Most maps combine several types of blocks, but there are also cases when the whole map can only be made of one single block type. The first type of blocks is just regular blocks that can be of different size and shape. These are usually the ones that people associate bhop maps with, and these cause fear among many new players. When it comes to these kind of blocks, it's pretty simple. You stay to the side of them during the jump, and when you're close to falling, you move your crosshair towards it, at the same time aligning your crosshair away from the next block, as it was already mentioned in the video for beginners. It becomes a bit more complicated when it comes to the blocks of bigger size, though the logic behind it is still pretty similar. If you feel like that you're lacking speed to reach the second block in one jump while you're approaching the first one, then your main goal is to jump on the first block in such a way that you land on the edge of it that is furthest away from the second block, looking perpendicularly in relation to the second block. So after landing, make a U-turn towards the edge of the first block that is closest to the second block, and after that you're free to approach the already mentioned second block. The next type is elevated blocks, and here the story can change depending on the height. In CSGO Autobunnyhop, the maximum height you can reach without holding control is 56 units, 58 units if you're holding control non-stop, but if you start holding control at a very specific moment, you can reach a height of about 66 units. But no blocks of the maximum height can be climbed consistently if you're playing on lower tick rates, and that's just how it is. The higher is the tick rate, the higher is the chance of climbing such a block. So let's examine several situations. For instance, let's look at the blocks that are below or equal to 55 units in height. The main way of how you should be approaching them doesn't really differ much from approaching regular blocks. You hold space, go to a side, get on top of the block, repeat. But as soon as we face the blocks with height that is higher or equal to 56 units, the situation completely changes. It is still possible to climb 56 unit blocks without holding control, but the only way to keep your speed is to make a so-called max height jump. So you jump, you reach your top height, and then attempt at climbing the block the same second. Apart from that, you should also be strafing towards the block, which is not an easy thing to do. It is much easier to make a so-called high jump to get on top of these. Before you approach the block, make sure that you're in a non-crouch state. Get off the ground, hold control, wait until you reach the height required to make the jump, and then just jump on top of the block. This way you can keep climbing on top of the blocks that are of lower height than the high jump you're making. Usually from a height of about 64 units, it is already quite difficult to climb the block and not lose speed, but it is still possible. In this case, if you map with a 64 unit block and you do not care if you lose speed or not, and the main goal is to jump on top of it, then do the following. Build up speed, make a high jump in the direction of the block by holding control after you get off the ground, and then, with the help of strafe keys, level yourself in the air so that you would be flying straight towards it, and then hold W. There's one trick I can give you in case you cannot do it. As an example, let's take a block from a map called bhop Lego 1. Regardless of whether you're bhopping or not, stand right next to the block and face it. Start holding control and then almost instantly start holding jump and W. With this method you can jump up to 66 units in height. Another new question coming up: what should you do if there are several blocks higher than 56 units? The task is about the same. Jump on the first block by getting off the ground in a non-crouch state, and when airborne, start holding control. When you land, release control, which will get you into a uncrouched state, and make a 225-degree turn twice, which will make you jump onto the same block again. And then just head towards the next block by getting off the ground and holding control afterwards. And then just repeat. The next type of blocks is long blocks, and I don't think you will be surprised if I say that these blocks follow the same rules as the regular ones, as in the case of both approaching them and leaving them. If you're trying to approach the blocks, on approach, turn parallel to them and stay there until you're close to falling, and when you are, just land. In the case of jumping off these blocks, don't fly in a straight line after you do. Leave its airspace and then go to the side and stay there, again, until you're close to falling. Then you just get off the ground and repeat. Also, there are so-called jump boosts, aka jump pads. Jump boosts push you in the air, increasing the height of the next jump. There are no special rules other than the standard go to the side one. When talking about not jump boosts but simply boosts, blocks that increase your speed, there is one additional rule: you need to land on them so that you look exactly in the direction where the block will boost. Otherwise you will lose speed. And now let's talk about inclined blocks. Inclined blocks are usually harder than people think. If you're not careful enough, they can push you away and leave you without speed. This is why you should be extremely careful when approaching them. On landing, try to look either parallel or outwards the top edge. One thing to note that if you're landing parallel, then you're better off holding the strafe key that is closest to the top edge, while if you decided to look outwards, you should be holding the opposite key. These blocks have one interesting property. If you land on one of them while flying outwards the slope, then depending on the vertical speed that you've got from, for instance, jumping from big heights, it will give you additional speed. This is why you should be keeping in mind that when you land on one of these blocks, you better be holding a strafe key that is the opposite to the top edge of the inclined block, and your camera should be also facing the same opposite direction, because if you do it right, you'll be rewarded with additional speed boost on each jump. And the last type of blocks we will talk about is spikes and 1-pixel sticks, and these are by its nature pretty much the same obstacle. These are usually the scariest blocks for most players, as again, the top face of the block is just 1 pixel wide, but don't be afraid, even though it can be 1 unit wide, the bottom surface of the player model in CSGO is 32 by 32 units wide. So all you need to do is to connect your 32 unit shoes with the spike on landing. And the rules are still the same. Don't fly in a straight line towards the block, stay at one of the sides from it during the jump, and when you're close, flick towards it without doing it too hard, otherwise you will lose speed. And that would be it. I hope that all the information provided in these 3 parts of my amateur Autobunnyhop guide will be enough for you to grow in skill and decide where you should move on next. Next part of my guide series will focus on the things that can be helpful for advanced players. Thanks for watching, and if you have enjoyed this video, please leave a like or comment. This truly helps a lot, and you can also subscribe if you don't want to miss out on my next guide. So, good luck, and see you in the next video.